Good morning from Los Angeles and happy Friday. It's Alissa, Coram, and Ken Shreve here with your market update. Our last market update for a while as we shift our focus to the afternoon for our Stock Market Today show. So if you haven't been watching that yet at the close, make sure you do that. We're going to be pivoting to other content, video content earlier in the day in lieu of market update, which we are really excited about. So more details on that to come. Lots of headlines this morning. We're talking about 3 stocks that are moving big on their quarterly earnings reports. And we are also taking a look at Kraft Heinz. But first, let's take a look at the major indexes. We are up across the board, Ken. The Dow and the NASDAQ up about 0.5% each.
Yeah, pretty good start for the market. We saw some moderate selling in the major stock indexes Thursday. The declines came in lower volume, which we talked about yesterday. We want to see if the market does pull back. We'd like to see it in lower volume, and that happened yesterday. But good start for stocks today. Still optimism that the trade deal with China is going to come to fruition in some form. We'll take a look at the NASDAQ here, still grappling at that 200-day moving average and the 7,500 price level. So we're still looking at that as potential resistance, but a lot of big movers in the early going Friday.
Yeah, that we do. We have trade desk shares jumping some 27%, or 27%. Yeah. I was like, am I reading that right? That's a pretty big jump. 27% today in massive volume on its quarterly earnings report in the commercial services advertising industry group. Yet another quarter of accelerating growth here for earnings. EPS up 102% here, and a bullish sales outlook for Trade Desk as well. Yeah,
I mean, a monster move for the stock. This has been a perennial member of the IBD 50 because of just good relative price strength. It's been a leader in its industry group for quite some time now, and just a very compelling fundamental story here, and really big numbers, and a bullish gap up out of a consolidation today.
That's right. And how was the option on Trade Desk looking heading into the report? Potentially a play here?
Yeah, it was a play. I mean, I mentioned in my column that it was an option play that was actually fairly expensive. So we always look at the premium in relation to the price of the stock, and if it's 4% or less, we consider that a fairly low risk trade. But Trade Desk was up around 5-6%, so it was a pricey option, but one that definitely paid off for call option buyers.
Yeah, that's right. And we're also seeing Wayfair shares jumping some 30% in massive volume today on its earnings report. Now, it is a money loser, but we've seen a string of strong sales growth here for the company in the retail internet space, and that relative strength line hitting a new high as it's gapping up out of a base here.
Yeah, I mean, at the crux of IBD's stock picking methodology is to look at companies with really strong earnings growth, and they also need to be strong price performers in the industry group. So with Wayfair, like you said, it's bleeding a lot of red ink, but the sales growth that this company has reported for several quarters in a row has been very impressive. It's an online home furnishings retailer, and just wanted to give this stock a shout out today just because of a similar gap up to Trade Desk. Obviously the market liked the earnings report very much, and this is also a stock that has excellent fund sponsorship. So, you always want to see what kind of mutual funds are in a stock, and there's some very top performing growth funds in this stock, sort of looking past the red ink and really focusing on sales growth. But this seems to be a company that's executing pretty well, and a bullish breakout for Wayfair.
That's right. Now shares trading at an all-time high today. If they can hold the gains today, it would be a new all-time high for the stock. Yeah. After a 50% sell-off.
Yeah, I mean, it was a kind of a sharp pullback, but again, the bullish gap up today is a lot of people are looking at it as actionable, and Trade Desk and Wayfair, two big bright spots today.
Yeah, that's right. And Acacia Communication stock up 16% in massive volume. Extending gains after its own breakout on earnings. Now, this is a turnaround story in the fiber optic space. We have earnings coming in up 52% and sales up 24%.
Yeah, Ciena has been a nice winner in the leaderboard portfolio, and Acacia is in the same industry group as Ciena. So very nice earnings from Acacia. This is really a turnaround story. You had several quarters in a row of declining earnings, declining sales, but nice turnaround in the latest quarter, and you're seeing just a really strong move for the stock today. Another gap up out of a consolidation here, and people probably, this one actually looks a little bit extended, even though it gapped up, but just another bright spot in earnings today.
That's right, and in addition to the option strategy, which we mentioned a little bit earlier, also looking at those gap ups and seeing if they can hold those gains within the first hour, looking at the 5-minute chart as well, or some of the strategies that we've talked about a little bit on this show. And another important thing to look at with a lot of these gap ups is to see if they can hold those gains throughout the session and ideally close in the upper half of the range for the day.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen so many gaps up in price during the most recent earnings season. Several stocks that have been able to hold gains. It looks like Trade Desk and Wayfair, and probably Acacia really showing no signs of letting up here. But sometimes a stock will fade. You don't like to see that. But bottom line, with gaps up in price, people are often afraid to buy because they think it's too late. But there are a lot of examples. Chipotle recently gapped up. It has extended gains. A lot of other stocks that have performed well after gapping up in price. So
right. Well, we'll keep these three. We'll add them to the list of those that we're keeping our eye on that have gapped up on their reports. But on the downside, we want to take a look at Kraft Heinz. Those shares down almost 28% today in massive volume. It did report its earnings, and then also subpoena from the SEC weighing on the stock today. And this is a Warren Buffett holding.
Yeah, more than 25%. So this is it's kind of strange to see a big blue chip name like this suffer the percentage decline that it is today. But just a lot of bad news around Kraft Heinz. The earnings disappointed. They slashed their dividend. You mentioned the SEC subpoena. So just a tremendous loss for Kraft Heinz. It has hurt a lot of other similar stocks, Kellogg, General Mills, I believe. Falling in sympathy, but had to give Kraft Heinz a little bit of attention because of the big price drop today.
Right. Okay, everyone, that is it for today and for Market Update, at least for a little while. But be sure you're pivoting your attention to our Stock Market Today show, which goes live at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We're looking forward to giving you our end of day analysis. It's a lot of fun for us, and be sure you stay tuned for other video content in the pipeline. And in the meantime, be sure you're heading to investors.com for all the latest stock news and analysis. We'll see you this afternoon.